Hello everyone, David here again, and what I want to talk to you about is, again, currency and money. I know I keep repeating it over and over again, but it takes some time to get the concept and grasp it. And what the difference again between money and currency is, and that today we do not use money, we use currency. And we haven't used money for decades, almost 100 years basically. But if you look at my other videos about that, you'll see a little bit more. But what I want to specifically talk about today is our central bank income tax. So the Federal Reserve, I've asked dozens of individuals, and the majority of people don't even know what the Federal Reserve is. And the individuals that do know what the Federal Reserve is, and I'll just let you know right now, the Federal Reserve is America's central bank. It is the banking institution where America borrows their money from at interest. And so the Federal Reserve Act, a little bit of history, was incepted, was 1913, it was when the Federal Reserve Act went into play. Now, the same year, and I believe in coincidences, I really do. I just haven't seen one yet. So when I hear that we didn't have income tax for the first 100 and some years of America's birth, since America's birth, and that the Income Tax Act came into play right after the Federal Reserve Act came into play. Now, why is that? That's something that is, if you don't look into the history about it, then you're not going to get it. And this is what we're going to talk about today. And so, before 1913, every single state basically had banks that would issue their own currency depending upon the deposits on the bank. And if you haven't seen any of my other videos about the difference between money and currency, then I'm going to just real quick is that before 1933 basically, we used gold and silver as money. And a bank would be able to print exact amount of bills that they had deposited and nothing more. And so up to the 1913, this is the way banks did it. Now America had a couple of central banks that came into play over the first couple hundred years, but were shot down. And then so America used to hold their basic bills inside either state banks or their treasury. That's what the treasury was for, the United States Treasury. And when you look at silver or gold certificate, it says this certificate certifies that there has been deposited that much gold or silver in that bank. So fast forward, 1913, Federal Reserve Act. America literally gave over its monetary policies and up to the central bank, it's a privately owned bank. The central bank, the Federal Reserve, is not federal at all. They don't have federal employees. It's all a privately run bank that has shareholders, basically owners, and they get paid dividends every single year. And this is something that isn't hidden. It's not a secret. You can go to the Federal Reserve website, the New York or Boston Federal Reserve website, and you'll see it says it right there. They don't even try to hide it. Straight up saying that their money isn't backed by anything. It's all confidence, and they aren't federal. They're as much federal as Federal Express is a really popular saying amongst us stackers. And so the Federal Reserve got power to control the nation's money. Now, if you look back, there's a famous saying by one of the Rothschilds back in the 1700s, and he literally said, "Give me control of a nation's money, and I care not who makes the laws." Now, please let that sink in, you guys, because the Rothschilds are the largest banking cartel in the world. They more than likely own almost all the debt around the world. Because why? Because they're central banks that they got pushed into the world's countries to issue those countries' monetary monies at interest. And the only reason why this happened is because of the lobbyists and corrupt politicians who were in these bankers' pockets. There's a really contradictory, or I don't know the right word for it, but there's a president who is really, people love him, people hate him. His name was Andrew Jackson. Yes, Andrew Jackson was a slaveholder, but so was George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln. He freed the slaves. But all our founding fathers before that usually owned slaves. Anyway, Andrew Jackson was a slaveholder. He decimated the Indians. He was a racist. He was a really morally towards the population a bad president. However, Andrew Jackson was the first and only president to ever, before and after, have a totally balanced budget, and were not in debt at all. One of his famous sayings that I killed the bank. And he literally did. I think it's even on his gravestone. I killed the bank. Because he understood. He was a really in favor of gold and silver and did not like paper fiat money. And he knew the dangers of a central banking system. And at the time it was called like the United States Bank or something like that. But he shot it down. And he vetoed or stopped their initiation, and they stopped being. And he took all the nation's current money and put it into into state banks. But 1913 Federal Reserve Act came into play. Another fact I like to tell people is that income tax. The Income Tax Act, again, like I said before, was initiated right when the Federal Reserve Act was initiated. Now again, I believe in coincidences, but heck, I have not seen one before. And this was not a coincidence. There was no way that they just all of a sudden started taking people's money that they work hard for. And you know where that money goes? Oh, we wouldn't have roads. We wouldn't have bridges. We wouldn't have schools. Think about it. Before 1913, we didn't have a federal income tax. So, did that mean that before 1913 we didn't have schools, roads, hospitals? I mean, come on. That is not a valid argument. We had a thriving economy. We were growing. This is even before World War I. We were growing, and we were literally competing with the nations, all the countries of the world. And you're trying to tell me now that in order for us to have a stable country and have roads and all of this, we have to have income tax? I gotta tell you, if you don't know that all of the income tax that is taken from the American public goes to the interest on the money that we borrowed. Yep. So, we as Americans initiated a central bank so that they could manipulate the currency, and that we could borrow the money from at interest, and yet initiated an income tax immediately after that just to pay the interest. Now, this is another one that it just bewilders the heck out of me. So when the Federal Reserve Act was in play, I've heard of debt clock. You heard the debt clock before, the debt ceiling, excuse me. We got to raise the debt ceiling. This debt ceiling has been being raised since I was a little kid. I think it was like at $12 trillion, and everybody was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? We can't raise the debt ceiling again, but we're going to have to. So just some inside information is that they have to continuously get into debt in order for the system to continually run. If America does not continue to get into debt, then the whole system implodes. Now, the reason why is because we borrow our nation's currency at interest from the central bank. Since 1913, this has been going on. And so, let's just give you an example. Let's just say, bam, it's 1913 today. we're America, USA. We go to the central bank that we just initiated and said, loan us $1 million, bank. The bank says, okay, USA, here's $1 million, but you're gonna owe me $2 million. Whatever. Okay, so where does that other $1 million come from that's owed in interest? If the federal bank, then the central bank that issues the money, issues $1 million and says, okay, USA, you owe me $2 million now, where does the other $1 million come to pay for the interest on the $1 million that you borrowed? If there's only $1 million in circulation, how do you get that other $1 million? You know, it's a tricky question, I know. Just think about it real quick. Just take 10 seconds. Where does the interest come from the money that we borrow if the bank is the one that loans out all of the currency? The answer? It comes from them. The only way to be able to pay them off is by borrowing more. I know that doesn't make any sense, but this is why our debt ceiling and the national debt will always continue to rise. The only way this is going to stop is if it implodes or the world stops using American money. Now, American dollar is the world reserve currency. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't know either. But the reason why the whole world uses our money, our currency, excuse me. God, I keep saying money, I gotta stop doing that. The only reason why the world uses our money, our currency, did it again, is because that is the world reserve currency. OPEC, which is the nation's business, all the oil nations put together sell oil to the world. It's called OPEC. I think it's like 80% of the nation's oil drilling companies together sell oil. Now, in 1972, we, the USA, made a deal with OPEC saying that if any of the world wants to buy oil, they must buy it in US dollars. And this is why all these countries must stockpile US dollars. Because the world is forced to purchase oil from the oil distributors in dollars. Now, I know I said a lot in this video, and I know it's a lot to intake. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave me a comment at the bottom, send me an email, shoot me a text, whatever the case may be, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. And I know we talked a lot about, the Federal Reserve. It's not federal. Look it up. Check it out. It's a privately owned bank. Check it about the income tax either. We didn't have income tax before 1913. 1971, the world got off the gold standard and no country could change their U.S. bills for gold anymore. And the only reason why the whole world didn't just blow up, because why? OPEC decided to allow the very next year, allow them to print money. Forced them to the whole world to buy oil in dollars. Now, if you like what you heard, please give me a thumbs up. I'm trying to start my channel. I'm trying to get this out there to the public. Leave me a comment. Please share it with anybody. Subscribe to my channel so that way when I get more videos out, you'll know that they're coming out and you can see them right away. If you can help me, I'm trying to get a nice system going, camera and everything. I have a PayPal. I have platforms that you can donate, Patreon, stuff like that. And just thank you for listening. If you have any subject that you would like me to research on and make a video, I would love to do that. But again, remember, we use currency, not money. Gold and silver is true money, and at today's rate, you can buy a whole lot of silver with your currency, and we can certainly help you with that too. Until next time, I'm David, NM Brief Relief, and NM Silver Gold Exchange, wanting to help you preserve your wealth and your health. Until next time, be safe, God bless, and stack those chips.